Across the history of boxing, many incredible fighters have reached the pinnacle of the sport, from the well-known legends such as Ali, Ray Robinson and Roy Jones Jr. to the lesser-known but still legendary champions such as Jack Britton, Ted Kid Lewis and Joe Garnes. But many equally talented fighters for a vast array of reasons never got to be crowned as world champions. Here are 5 of the most notable and skilled fighters who have never achieved official acknowledgement as kings of their divisions. A quick note before we get into the video, I am only including one fighter from the great murderers row of boxers, as I intend to make a whole video on them in the future. So now that that's out of the way, let's get to number 5. In 5th place comes the man nicknamed the President, Ike Ibeabuchi. Probably the man least deserving a place on this list, but I just wanted to quickly highlight the rise and the tremendous downfall of one of the most promising heavyweights in the late 90s. Ibeabuchi, born in Nigeria, made his professional debut at the age of 21 in 1994 with a knockout win. This would be the start of a destructive yet short career, defeating every man he stepped in the ring with. Within 2.5 years, Ibeabuchi had amassed a record of 16 fights, 16 wins and 12 knockouts. This hot streak earned Ibeabuchi his first major bout and opponent of his career. The man he would have to face was highly touted, undefeated knockout artist David Tua. In what would be one of the most entertaining heavyweight bouts in boxing history, neither man would back down in a fight that more resembled Rock'em Sock'em Robots than boxing. It would break punch stat records. The first record it would break was then the most punches thrown in a heavyweight bout with a ridiculous 1,730 punches thrown. The second record it would smash was the individual records of punches thrown by a heavyweight, in which Ibeabuchi would earn. He would throw 975 punches, landing 332. According to BoxRec, Ibeabuchi complained of a headache after the fight. He was sent to a hospital when MRI found nothing of note. But after leaving the hospital, the man nicknamed the President started to state that he was being haunted by demons and evil spirits. Ibeabuchi would have 3 more fights, winning all by TKO, including a win over future world heavyweight champion Chris Bird, before being sent to prison. Ibeabuchi, a man with an undefeated record of 20 fights, 20 wins with 15 knockouts, would then spend the next 20 years of his life in prison, only being released on the 23rd of September 2020. In 4th place, we have one of the greatest what-if stories in the rich history of boxing. The first boxer to win 3 Olympic gold medals in successive Olympics, the great Laszlo Papp. Papp, who was heavily cited as one of the greatest amateur boxers in history, had an absolutely absurd amateur record of 301 wins, 12 losses and 6 draws, including 55 knockout wins coming in the first round. One of the more notable names on his amateur resume was one of the greatest boxers in history, Jose Torres. But that was his past, and the world title was what he wanted. Papp would turn pro in 1957, even though professional boxing was outlawed in Hungary at the time. Training and fighting out of Austria, Papp would win the European Middleweight Championship and in his own words was one step away from a world title shot against the then champion Joey Giardello. But the Hungarian government revoked his permit to travel, ending his undefeated professional career of 29 fights, 27 wins and 2 draws, with 15 of those wins coming by way of knockout. Now coming into the top 3, we have one of the greatest fighters to have ever lived, the great Packy McFarland. McFarland was one of those genuinely great fighters who just sadly never got his shot at the title. His career still remains one of the best in history. He fought during the era of no decision bouts where neither fighter was given a win or loss on their record, but nevertheless he competed in 104 fights, 64 wins, 1 loss, 5 draws and 34 no decisions. 1 loss on his record at that ultra competitive time is a testament to his greatness, but it is only made better by the great fighters he fought. Some of these fighters include Freddie Welsh, who he would have 3 fights with, drawing 2 and winning 1, 3 fights against future welterweight champion Jack Britton, 1 draw and 2 no decisions, and knocking out ex-lightweight king Jimmy Britt. An incredible resume and career by one of boxing's greatest, even though he was never recognized as a world champion. In second, the fighter described by the legendary Eddie Futch as the finest all-round fighter I ever saw, and by Archie Moore as the toughest opponent he ever faced, the forgotten great Charlie Burley. Burley was a fighter completely dodged by everyone who had a name at that time, as well as a victim of systematic racism and oppression. Burley, who was dodged by all the welterweights and middleweights, would have to move up to face the light heavyweights and heavyweights of his time to get any real recognition. But before that, how about we name 2 managers who refused for their fighters to face Burley? The first is Johnny Ray, the manager of the great Billy Conn, who was quoted as saying, "No, no, no, I don't want Burley. You can have him for Christmas, for New Year's, or for your Aunt Tilly's birthday, but never mention his name again." The second well-known manager to refuse Burley from fighting his star was George Gainford, the manager of the greatest fighter to have ever lived, Sugar Ray Robinson. Gainford admitted at quote-unquote bypassing Burley, stating that his style was such that he would have counteracted Robinson's. He would then also go on to ask Ray Arcel, "Can't you get me someone besides Burley?" Now, I'm not saying Sugar Ray Robinson himself dodged Burley, but this is what his manager did say. But Charlie Burley would have to move to light heavyweight, fighting greats such as Ezzard Charles and Archie Moore, where in the Moore fight, Burley would knock down the old mongoose 4 times before winning a decision. Ducked by most and remembered by fewer, Burley deserves his place in the pantheon of boxing greats, no matter the fact that he never won a world title. Now in first place, without question, it has to be the incredible Sam Langford. There are really no words to describe the greatness this man possessed. His opportunities were limited completely by the colour of his skin and the career and lifestyle of Jack Johnson. Fearing another outspoken black world champion, Langford was cast out from his ability to fight for a world title, but this doesn't take away anything from his legacy whatsoever. He fought in every weight class from featherweight to heavyweight, and if that isn't impressive enough, he beat the likes of the great Joe Garnes, Jim Barry, Barbados Joe Walcott, Sam McVeigh, Harry Willis, Joe Jeanette and Jeff Clark to name a few. He also fought Stanley Ketchel in a 6-round no decision fight, while Ketchel was middleweight world champion. He also fought Jack Johnson prior to when Jack Johnson was world heavyweight champion. When Jack Johnson became the world heavyweight champion, he refused to fight Langford. Even when he was in the twilight of his career, Jack Dempsey apparently even refused to fight with the great Langford. To even further his mythical status, he would call his fights long before Ali. In one fight, his opponent's corner was screaming for his fighter to do something and that he would tell said fighter again when he returned to the corner. Langford replied viciously, "Man, he ain't coming back there again." Langford would then knock him out one punch later. Reportedly could have had over 350 bouts. Historians even disagree with this official record. BoxRec has his record as 252 fights, 178 wins, 126 knockouts, 29 losses and 38 draws, while Bert Sugar has it at 293 fights, 167 wins, 38 losses, 37 draws, 48 no decisions and 3 no contests. Whatever his record is, he's without doubt one of the greatest fighters in history and the greatest never to have won a world title. So that's the end of the video. Subscribe if you enjoyed and leave a comment. Who do you think the greatest fighter to have never won a world title is? Thank you for watching and see you on the next one. Bye.